Alrighty guys, this is my example of the screenshots that you should probably take off Wikipedia, and also of what a declare battle formation step would look like. This happens like as we're setting up for the game and deciding on the primary mission, all that type of stuff, setting up the objectives and whatnot. But essentially you're just explaining your army to your opponent. So I'm playing Chaos Space Marines. My army rule is called Dark Pacts. What that means is that in the shooting or the fight phase, every individual unit I have can choose to make a Dark Pact. If they do, they take a leadership test. If they fail, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. And then regardless of whether they fail or pass, if they pass, they just don't take the D3 mortal wounds. Regardless, after that leadership test is taken, I get to choose between either lethal hits or sustained hits for the whole unit. So essentially, I can choose to buff a unit in my army or all of the units in my army every turn, but at the risk of them taking self-inflicted damage. The legionary squads in my army have a what do they call it? Like a chaos icon or something, which just means that they get to re-roll their leadership test. So they're a little bit more impervious to the mortal wounds. That'll apply regardless of what detachment I'm playing, because it's my army role. These are the two detachments I'm considering, either Pact Bound Zealots or Creations of Bile. I think Creations of Bile is a little bit more straightforward, so I'll talk through that one. These are the two screenshots I took for it. This one with the rule, the enhancements, and then this one with the stratagems. I kind of fucked up and there's this ghosting here, but the basics of Creations of Bile is that I've got this list of buffs that can be applied to all infantry models in my army. Now you can either just choose one of them at the start of the game, or you can roll dice, 2 dice, and based on the results, you randomly get 2. I will probably always be choosing my upgrade and just picking one. And that'll be a little bit matchup dependent. So you can see you can add 1 to 1 attack to all your melee weapons. You can add 2 to the move, which is pretty tempting. I think that, like, for example, if I was playing into Fox's Orcs, I'd probably choose this one because I have a lot of chain swords in my army that are strength 4, and all of the majority of Fox's Orc boys are toughness 5. I could choose to add 1 to the strength characteristic of all my infantry models' melee weapons, which would allow them to punch up into that toughness 5 a little bit better. Then for enhancements, the only one that I would use in this detachment is Living Carapace. I put it on my Chaos Lord in Terminator armor. Essentially, he gets 1 additional wound, so 1 additional HP, if you will, and then he gets a Feel No Pain 5+, which means that whenever he's being attacked, any wounds that get past my invulnerable save, I get 1 more chance to shrug those wounds. So for every wound, let's say 3 wounds got through, I roll 3 dice. On a 5+, that wound would get shrugged, and he could ignore it. So it just makes my Chaos Terminator Lord a little bit more durable. These are the stratagems. This one, I can choose one of my units that's getting targeted either in the shooting or the fight phase, and I can make the opponent's unit that's attacking them -1 to hit. This one is a fight on death. So like in the fight phase, I can choose one of my units that's being attacked during my enemy's turn. And at the end of their turn, when they're all done and all the wounds have been tallied up, any of my models that were destroyed can fight back before being removed from the table, but only on a 4+. So I roll a die for each model that was destroyed. This one, I forget. It allows one of your character units to reroll the wound roll when you're attacking a character, and if you kill him, it forces a battle shock test. It's 2 CP, and I probably won't. I don't think I'll ever use it. It's just too expensive and kind of weird. This one, another 2 CP one. In my command phase, I can choose one of my infantry units They automatically suffer D3 mortal wounds, but then I get to choose another one of those buffs from this list, and they get it for the entirety, like until my next command phase, so for the entirety of the battle round. Pretty expensive, but can give a unit double buffs. Diabolic Regeneration, 1 CP. In the command phase, I can choose one of my units and resurrect a destroyed model. And then if they're a battle line unit, which for me I have both cultists and legionaries, you get to resurrect D3 destroyed models. So that could have a huge impact on swinging objective if you were to bring back 3 legionaries, all OC2. Pretty cool. And then lastly, this one's just a advance in charge for 1 CP in the charge phase. So my Chaos Lord, he is my only character. He's my Warlord. He'll be attached to a Terminator, a squad of Chaos Terminators that I'll show you later. He will be equipped with a Power Fist and a combi weapon, which does devastating wounds on 4+ against infantry. It's only 1 attack though. His ability, once per battle round, he can reduce the cost of a stratagem by 1. So in theory, throughout the 5 battle rounds of the game, he can use this ability 5 times and either use like a 1 CP stratagem for free or a 2 CP stratagem for just 1 CP. And then he also has this ability that allows him to half damage. So when he's being attacked, the opponent rolls their hit roll, they roll to wound. Any wounds that get through my invulnerable save will automatically get halved. So let's say a damage 2 attack gets past my invuln, that becomes a damage 1 attack. Obviously, damage 1 doesn't become half or 0, it's rounded to 1. And then that combined with the the living carapace enhancement means that then those halved damage or halved wound damage, then I get a feel 5+ feel no pain on those wounds that got through and were already halved. So he's going to be hopefully pretty tough with all that stacking damage reduction and opportunity to shrug damage. That's the idea anyway. I'll go to the Terminator squad real quick. 5 Terminators. Their war gear is varied. In melee, there will be 3 Power Fists, 1 pair of accursed weapons, 1 single accursed weapon. Then they will have 4 combi weapons that also do devastating wounds on 4+ against infantry, and 1 Reaper autocannon. These guys are like 95% WYSIWYG. One of them will just look like they have an extra like heavy weapon, but he just has another combi weapon. They can deep strike because they're Terminators, and then their ability is that whenever they make a Dark Pact, they get to re-roll the hit roll. So they will be, they've got much more incentive to risk a Dark Pact because they get like double buff. They get either lethal hits or sustained hits, and also to re-roll their hit rolls. Going back, I've got 1 cultist mob, 10 units, super weak. They die to a stiff breeze. They do no damage. They have no range, so they shouldn't be fighting anybody. They're purely a utility piece. At the start of the game or at the start of your command phase, if they're on an objective marker, they can sticky objectives. So that's all I'll be using them for. Legionaries, I have 2 squads of 5 battle lines, so they're OC2. They should be mirrored. Tragically, they're not WYSIWYG, and their war gear is varied, so it'll be a little bit of a pain. I apologize for that. They will have in range likely 1 plasma pistol, 3 bolt pistols, and a heavy bolter. And then in melee, the heavy bolter guy just has a knife. There will be 2 chainswords and 2 heavy melee weapons. Um, and that should be the same across both squads. I'll do my best to make that clear in some way, whether it's with a sticky note or a little index or something. I'm not sure. I took the Chaos Rhinos screenshot because I have one. It's not currently in this list, so we can skip it. We already talked about the Terminators. We've got 2 squads of Havocs, 5 models apiece. They have toughness 5 despite not being Terminators. 4 of them will have each squad will be the same, each unit. So there'll be 4 models with las cannons, tons of range, anti-vehicle guys, and then their leader, for whatever reason, can't take the las cannon, which is annoying. But he will have likely a power fist and a melt-a-gun. That's the way they're both built. So I'll probably just run it that way for consistency's sake. Their ability is that you can't debuff like their either ballistic skill or their hit roll. So, like for example, the way I have in my list of stratagems, this one that I can use on my opponent to make them -1 to hit. Like if my opponent had a stratagem like that, it couldn't be used on them because they just can't. They just are impervious to debuffs to the hit roll or to the ballistic skill. And then lastly, I have 2 units of Raptors, 5 each. Also varied war gear, which is kind of annoying. I believe that they have 3 heavy weapons out of the 5, and then 2 chain swords. And then I think it's the same with they have 3 plasma pistols and 2 bolt pistols. I'm pretty sure. And if it's different, it's flipped. It's like a 3 of the worst one and 2 of the better one. And then they can deep strike because they're jump pack guys. They've got movement 12. This one is just that whenever an enemy has to do like a battle shock test or a leadership test, and they're within 6 inches, they're -1 to that test. And then in the fight phase, they force a battle shock test against whoever they're engaged with, which is pretty unlikely. Battle shock kind of sucks in 10th, but it could work out in my favor. So that is everything. In summary, the screenshots I would recommend having are your army rule, the 2 pages of whatever detachment you want to use, and you could have a bunch of them ready to go, but then you'd have to also learn multiple detachments. So the first page with your rule and your enhancements, and the second page with all of the stratagems associated with that detachment, and then all of your data sheets for all of the models that you'll have. As you can see, that took 13 minutes to run through my declare battle formation step. Obviously, as the day goes on, or the weekend goes on, that shouldn't need to be quite so long, because hopefully people will have like been exposed to my army ahead of time. They may simply just not care to know that much detail, but it takes a while, and that is sort of the level that I know my army pretty well, and you should hope to know your army about that well that you could summarize the detachment and your units that succinctly. If you don't, you're gonna be spending a lot of time being like, you're not gonna use the models the way, you're not gonna know them well enough to know how to use them right. You're not gonna know what their abilities are, and like you're gonna be trying to check that in the moment, and that's gonna slow you down and just add to all that mental bandwidth. Like it's sort of like having to, I don't know, but you just want to know your army well. Take these screenshots early, review them like on your phone whenever you get free time, and then maybe if we wanted to, I don't know if everyone will probably I assume people won't have the time to do a little summary like this. If you do, great. Record it, post it, so that other people can watch it and be familiar with your army before JoeFest even starts. That way, like, for example, I'm pretty familiar with like Joe's army, Fox's army. So if I'm playing one of them, I can be like, yeah, you can kind of skip that. Let me just double check. Like, show me. Let me just peek at your detachment rule real quick, and then I'm probably good to go. So if you can make any of this type of these references available, even if it's just like posting we could have like a Google folder where we can post all of our data sheets and stuff. That would be great. That way, people can be familiar with your army ahead of time. If not, no big deal. We'll figure it out. I will take no more of your time. Good luck.